how many people? I think we'll just give everyone another minute or so to just, they're slowing down a little bit. So I think we'll go ahead and get started. So hi, everybody. Thank you for attending the 2022 Food Justice Summit Feedback Meeting in the Middle, a collaborative effort between Adirondack Health Institute and the Adirondack Food System Network. My name is Megan Doman. I am the Farm to Institution educator at Cornell Cooperative Extension in Essex County. This session, titled Using Cooperative Promotion to Strengthen Local Food Systems in the Adirondack Region, is presented by my colleague, Mary Godnick from Adirondack Harvest and CCE Essex. Before we kick off this session, we want to give a huge shout out to all of our sponsors. They helped to make this year's event possible, and we are so appreciative of their support. We want to especially shout out our keynote and premier sponsors, the New York State Health Foundation and Glens Falls National Bank and Trust Company. And I'm sure you all have heard this a few times already today, but just a reminder for some housekeeping things for this session. You are muted and will be off video for the duration of this session. If you have any questions or comments throughout Mary's presentation, please put them in the chat and one of us will help address your comments, and we will monitor questions for the end for the Q&A session. All the presentations today and tomorrow will be recorded and they will be archived on AHI's Food Justice Summit webpage, available at ahihealth.org/2022FJS. And lastly, we will be sending out a survey this Friday, the 25th, to get some of your feedback. So keep an eye out for that in your inboxes, and we'd love to hear from you. And now I will turn it over to Mary to introduce herself and get started with her presentation.
Sweet, thank you, Megan. I'm going to share my screen. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I see a really good list of folks that I recognize and people that I don't recognize, and so I'm excited to have this conversation with you all today. So my name is Mary Godnick. As Megan said, I work for Cornell Cooperative Extension, Essex County, primarily coordinating outreach for a program called Adirondack Harvest. I grew up in the Glens Falls area and went to college out in central New York, where I studied public relations and marketing. And I've worked in marketing roles all over for a variety of different kinds of clients. I've worked on accounts for multi-million-dollar law agencies and bootstrap, scrappy nonprofits. And I've had the privilege of working in a lot of different roles to really understand what good marketing and outreach looks like. And it is a privilege to work for Adirondack Harvest and get to work with my colleagues and help boost the efforts that my colleagues are doing and our farmers and our community. So I'm so excited for you all to be here, and I'm excited to talk about how Adirondack Harvest is using cooperative promotion to help boost our local food system together. And as Megan said, please just go ahead and drop any questions into the chat. So to get started, I thought every good day starts with a Robin Wall Kimmerer quote. So I'd like to frame the conversation with a passage from an essay that she published in online magazine, just to frame our conversation. She writes, "I think that service berries show us another model, one based upon reciprocity rather than accumulation, where wealth and security come from the quality of your relationships, not from the illusion of self-sufficiency. Without gift relationships with bees and birds, service berries would disappear from the planet. Even if they hoarded abundance, perching atop the wealth ladder, they would not save themselves from the fate of extinction if their partners did not share in that abundance. Hoarding won't save us either. All flourishing is mutual." And I think having this mindset is really helpful, especially as a marketing or an outreach or, a person who works in a professional industry or works to sell their products or anything like that. It's really helpful to have this mindset of mutual flourishing because it can be very competitive. And I think coming from a frame where we recognize that we all have a part to play and the more we work together, the more we will all mutually flourish. So we're going to talk about what Adirondack Harvest is and what we do. We're going to talk about specific examples of how we use collective outreach. Then I'm going to share some ways that you can implement different strategies to identify gaps and opportunities in your work, and strategies for how you can use collective content marketing. And then we'll have a good amount of time for questions. So if you're not familiar with Adirondack Harvest, we are a nonprofit organization that was established in the early 2000s by a group of community members and farmers who got together, and they saw that Vermont had this growing, really solid brand that was attracting people to support the local food system. And they recognized that the Adirondacks didn't really have that. And so there was this recognition that we needed a branded platform to really promote agriculture in the Adirondacks and to show why it's special and unique in combination with our wild landscapes, and how it's a benefit for our communities and why people should support local agriculture. So our goal of our work today is still executing an educational and promotional program where we work with farmers to make their businesses more sustainable and more economically viable, and we work to help community members find access to local food and locally grown products. So coming from the mindset of that our organization was created by farmers and community members out of this need, our mission is really to help farmers and local food producers to have sustainable, profitable production, and to help community members get connected with these local products. So one good place for us to start today is to think about what the goal is of your work. If you want to write it in the chat, you're totally welcome to do that. There hasn't been a lot of engagement yet by our audience. But a good place to start is to think, before we even begin thinking about promotion or marketing or outreach, what are we trying to accomplish? What is our goal? So for me, my goal every day when I open my laptop to begin my work, my goal is to help make farm businesses and local food producers more economically and viable and sustainable, and to connect people with local food and products. So that is a good place to start. Oops, sorry, my camera's covering my slide. Cool. So Cornell Cooperative Extension of Essex County did a survey in 2020 as the pandemic was beginning to show its impacts in Essex County, and we had about 350 people respond across a really interesting variety of socioeconomic backgrounds, of views, of locations. We had almost all the towns in Essex County represented, and we asked them the statement and asked if they agreed or disagreed. And the statement was, "I buy local because I want to strengthen the local economy by supporting small businesses which create jobs, generate revenue, create sustainable positive growth. When I keep my money in the local economy, I help create a stronger community through the multiplier effect." And what we were really encouraged to see was that 91% of respondents strongly agreed with this statement, and 7% said they hadn't thought about it before, but they agreed. So I think it's safe to say, if we're extrapolating this data, almost everyone in Essex County agrees that, supporting local agriculture and supports our communities. It makes it more sustainable, and our community is a better place to live. So that's really hopeful for all of our work. The bad news is that we are not operating in a vacuum. It's estimated that we are exposed to almost 3,000 different marketing messages each day. And I can tell you that these messages are not coming from other nonprofits doing similar work. It's not coming from other farms selling similar products. It's coming from these big global and national brands who don't have our community's best interests in mind, probably. And just for example, I, in preparation for this presentation, opened my Facebook to just see, what kind of content marketing was being advertised to me. And I within 2 minutes received 4 or 5 different ads of very similar offerings of, meal delivery services, of veggie delivery services. And so it's important to know that there's millions and billions of dollars being pushed into promotion and marketing, and of things that are in competition with our local food producers. Yeah, and I note that Procter and Gamble has an $8 billion a year marketing budget. And from there, yeah, it's just billions of dollars going to marketing. And so it's like, what can we do as local producers, or people who are trying to support a local food system? What can we do when we're up against this? Like when we're up against people who have billions of dollars to spend on advertising. So my recommendation is what I like to call collective content marketing. And this is really what the basis of what Adirondack Harvest is and what they do. And I think, there's a lot of really hard things that working in food systems that we have to address. Climate change, social injustice, there's class injustice, there's a lot of problems, and I'm not, suggesting that marketing can solve any of those, but I am suggesting that if we can frame our marketing and our outreach and our promotion in a way that is more cooperative instead of competitive, I think it will bring us closer to the goals that we're all trying to reach. So what is content marketing? If you read a content or a marketing textbook, if that even exists anymore, they would define content marketing as the process of creating valuable, relevant content to attract, acquire, and engage your audience. And the way I look at it is really just identifying a problem and creating a really valuable solution. You've probably seen this in your life all the time, where you try to do something and you realize like this really important resource doesn't exist. And so maybe you go out of your way to create it, or you make a suggestion to someone else to create it. That's content marketing. So how is it collective? Content marketing can be collective when we use all the tools available to us, not just, the tools that we've created ourselves. We look to external sources, look to people who are doing different or better, or, maybe just variable things. And by doing this, we work more effectively towards our collective goals. So I think collective content marketing is something we can all be implementing into our work every day, even if you're a farmer or you're just an involved community member. I think there's a lot of lessons here, even if you're not a marketing professional. So specifically, how does Adirondack Harvest do this? Adirondack Harvest, our main offering is this online directory that we have of over 225 farms, farmers markets, agricultural businesses across what we call the Adirondack region, which is anything that really touches the Adirondack Park. And it lives on our website. It initially was a printed guide, but that was something that the Adirondack Harvest team realized that it needed to be online. And so you can filter by product, by county, by business type, by season, pickup, delivery, different benefits. You can filter for farms that accept SNAP and things like that. And so all of our outreach is really designed to help people use this guide. So you will see that in our examples. So how are we doing collective outreach with this guide is that we're basically trying to get people to use our guide to connect with local farms and food producers and people who sell local products. And so we're pushing people to this guide by working with partners. We do targeted digital advertising. We have email newsletters. We use social media. We work with our press. We use search engine optimization by writing articles and things that we know people are Googling and looking for. And we use content marketing. And pictured is my colleague, Carly Summers, on a very frigid day out at Harmony Hills Farmstead in Malone, when we were out there taking a video of Michelle and talking about her operation in the Adirondacks. And so we do this kind of work to help promote our farms and ag in the region. And yeah, that's just a little look at our work. So you've probably seen what we call collective content marketing out in the world. Its physical manifestation is These are just some examples. Our local food guide activity book is a free publication that we distribute to promote local food in the area. We worked with members to create a series of videos to help promote their unique offerings. We work with our partners at Roost to promote agritourism in the area. We write articles for the Adirondack Explorer and Adirondack Almanac to help raise awareness of seasonal foods, and we publish different guides to help push people to farmers markets, especially those farther reaching farmers markets that maybe have a little bit less traffic. So that's just a little snapshot at our work. And the good news is that, for us at least, it works. You can see that our outreach, funneling people to our website over the past 3 years has been effective. We were able to quadruple the amount of people using our guide and ultimately learning more about farms and businesses in the area by doing this kind of outreach. So I'm hopeful it can work for you too. And not just for us, not just for the farmers, but for our partners too. Cool. So now we're going to kind of get into what cooperative content marketing is, and I'm going to go through 3 specific examples. I kind of provided a brief overview, but I'm going to go through 3 specific examples, and if you're interested, I can break down, what tools we used and things like that, just so that you have a better idea of the process and what's involved. So the 4 elements are identifying the gap, the problem, the thing that's keeping people from achieving whatever it is that your goal of your organization or your business or your personal community mission is. Maybe you already know this, you probably already know this, what the gaps are, what the barriers are. For example, like one barrier that you can identify is that there's low SNAP usage at places that sell local food. And one of the barriers is because they have irregular hours, or it's not convenient, or the food's more expensive. The second part is looking for opportunities. So you've identified a problem. What are the unique tools that you have and your partners have where you can address this problem? And that's kind of the stage where you think about, am I the right person to address this problem? And then you look to content. What is the best possible resource to help address this problem? Is it something online? Is it, a print publication? Who's going to write it? Who's going to put it out? That's definitely a consideration. And then the last component is distribution. So you've put in the time and effort and energy to find out what a problem is, work with partners to create a helpful resource. How are you going to make sure people know it exists? So this is the first example I'd like to go through. I picked just 3 recent examples of our work. This holiday season, we identified a gap, which was that there's, as we know, billions of dollars in advertising. There's a lot of commercial holiday pressure. But there's also this contingency of people that really have more interest in buying meaningful and sustainable local gifts or food, and they don't really want to participate in spending lots of money to kind of faceless companies, which there's also nothing wrong with that. I do plenty of that too. But there is this hunger for people that want to support local, especially around the holiday time. So the opportunity for us is that we have this very complete database of producers and farmers and businesses with, it's already up and running. All we really had to do was kind of change a little bit of functionality and reframe how we're saying things, and we could help our businesses get a little bit more exposure to their holiday offerings. So we worked with our network of local producers to help showcase their offerings, especially during the holiday season. And so the content part was that we created this online database, and you can see a picture here of a screenshot of it. And the main part of it was just kind of categorizing things in a way that were appealing around the holiday season, and giving people ideas about different things they could do for gifts or contributions. And the distribution portion was we used mostly targeted advertising, mostly on social media. We worked with a local graphic designer to create this cute little graphic to help draw people in, and we targeted people who had visited the Adirondacks in the past year. And so one of the good things is that, you know, we were targeting people that could utilize different services, like farmers that are willing to ship products and things like that. So the good news is it was pretty successful. We had over 10,000 people use the guide, and our outreach earned 176,000 impressions, which was really good. But most of all, it drove people to our farm businesses to support them. Cool. So that was primarily an online example of, like, that would be the most traditional example of content marketing. But I would like to highlight an example that is less about marketing and more about programming. My colleagues and our team of volunteers at Cornell Cooperative Extension worked this year to work with our partners at ADK Action to combine forces to address a problem. The problem was that there wasn't many people using SNAP at our farmers markets. Sometimes it was available, but there wasn't many people utilizing it. And so my team worked with farmers markets in the area, specifically the Lake Placid and Saranac Lake farmers markets, to address this problem. And so ADK Action was planning on being at farmers markets collecting, you know, compost for the Compost for Good program and handing out pollinator seeds. And we were planning on being there anyway for this program we call Power Produce Club, which is free educational programming for kids. And so we worked together to go through the legwork of accepting SNAP and created this combined booth that was more effective for everyone because we were together. People were coming up for Power Produce Club and learning about SNAP. People were coming up learning about pollinators and then learning about our free programs for kids. It reduced a little bit of the stigma and it helped draw more people in. If we were both, you know, separate, we might have, you know, had been in competing spaces and people might have just talked to one of us instead of both of us. So that was a good thing. And so we had this combined booth, but also we made sure people knew about it. Our team created this cool guide down here on the right-hand side that was shared with our county agencies and distributed people that are using SNAP and EBT benefits. And so with this increased presence and working together with ADK Action and the farmers markets, we were able to see an increase of $200 a month in SNAP spending at those markets, which is great. And 300 kids participated in our free programming, which helped them be more familiar with local seasonal produce, which is awesome. And then my last example here is an example that is underway. So the gap that our team has identified is that there's a big challenge for people who want to buy local food, especially if you're thinking about it on a wholesale level as either an institution or a restaurant or a business. There's a lot of different information that you need to collect before you can even consider about pricing it out or learning about who's delivering and things like that. And so my colleagues came up with this idea to create what we call a wholesale database, where we are working with wholesale food producers to list them all in one place and make it kind of one resource so that people who are looking to buy local food at a wholesale level can see who's producing what vegetables or cheese or meat and things like that, and who can deliver near them, and kind of scroll through their options to help with that considering process. The big opportunity here was that we already have this network of food producers, so it's still a process, just a matter of working with them to make sure that their wholesale information is reflected correctly and that it's as complete as possible. And yeah, so we're also creating other resources along to support it. We're not just offering this database, we're offering a guide on what's in season when, and we're promoting all this stuff with things like videos and articles and things that are helping draw people into the resource that it would be relevant for them. Cool. So I'm just going to play this video because I'm very proud of the farmers and the people represented, and give everyone a little break from hearing me talk.
When I started here, I wanted to emphasize hospital food does not have to be bad. The only way you can do that is using good ingredients. And I find to be able to control it is to buy it local.
Institutions are a very important part of our local economy, and they have a lot of buying power. And when institutions buy from local farms, they're keeping those dollars local. All in all, is a really positive loop for our region.
When you rely on food that's trucked in from even just hundreds of miles away, you're really increasing the carbon footprint of that food. The more that you can do locally, you're really just helping the economy where you live, and you're also just helping the world in general.
You look at any package of food and there's ingredients that you don't know what they are. One of the hot dogs we use, there's like 5 ingredients. So you know what you're getting, it's just better off.
We saw the Adirondack Medical Center. They were our first institution actually buying 5-gallon pails of yogurt. From the producer standpoint, we really like to know where our food is going, and we like it to go to our local community first.
It's a strong belief here. The way that patients are going to heal is they have to eat. If the food's appealing and tastes good, they're going to eat it, and it's going to help their overall health.
Health starts with nutrition, and when people eat healthy, they feel healthy, and people working and in the hospital should get the healthiest food. Most people don't think about that. It's great to be part of this network of people who care about that and value that and want to be part of this whole movement.
I would say we're doing about 40% local on just the food aspect, which is kind of nice.
Farming can be a really, really challenging thing. So it's really just like hit or miss, whether the day is going to be amazing or whether it's going to be really hard. So to be able to sell to the community and to have patients say, wow, this meat came from a farm, it's really rewarding.
If you're a community member who'd like to see more local food served in your region, you can sign up to learn more with our Adirondack Harvest newsletter at adirondackharvest.com.
Cool. Well, I hope the audio came through on that for all of you. Megan, I'm seeing some things in the chat. Would you mind if we fielded some of these questions? Are they questions, maybe statements? Let's address them.
Yes, we have one statement. Would you like me to read it? Would you like me to read everything out loud to you? Is that helpful? Or just do questions?
Let's just do questions, I guess. I can read.
Great. So Joe brought up that one way to help local farms would be for schools to offer products in the cafeterias and in the backpack programs. Since a lot of farm production occurs in the summer when schools are not in session, a lot of those products would need to be processed and stored to cover the whole of the Adirondacks region. He asked, do you think that could happen, and what would it take to make that happen?
Great question. Yeah, that's definitely been the inspiration. Well, one of the inspirations for this program that Megan and I and our colleague Carly have the privilege of working on. We earned a USDA grant this past year, specific to focusing on increasing institutional buying of local food. Honestly, Megan, do you want to answer it?
I'm happy to help a little bit here. Yeah. So I'm the farm to institution educator for this grant. Actually lets me work in Essex, Clinton, and Franklin counties. So I work with a lot of farms that sell to schools already. And I think, Joe, your question of covering the whole of the Adirondacks is tricky because we don't really have those distribution systems in place right now. There are definitely farms in our region that could cover the whole region in terms of products and capacity, but that distribution is a really tough piece that we don't have currently. And in terms of processing, we work with the Hub on the Hill in Essex to process local fruits and vegetables for schools and other institutions. So that is available to us right now. And I'll also add that, you know, there are many other products that are available year round, like yogurt and meat that schools are buying. So that really helps with the seasonality issue that we see a lot with produce. So I think in order to make it happen, we need more centralized distribution systems for these products. And, we also do need to work on cost. Right now, schools are really incentivized to get a lot of free fruits and vegetables from the government. So we're happy about that because of pandemic relief, but it does make it difficult for them to be able to pay for local foods, which sometimes are a little bit more expensive. So I hope that helps answer your question.
Thanks, Megan. Didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just knew you would cover it more fully than I could.
No problem, no problem. And then we have a bunch of people loving the video and really appreciating our team's consciousness about the stigma around utilizing SNAP benefits at farmers markets.
Totally. Yeah. And that's not something new. That's, something we picked up from other people who are working directly with people who utilize SNAP and WIC and other programs like that. So definitely not something we invented, but definitely something we prioritized. Cool. Any other questions on these examples before we get into some specific ways you all can possibly implement this strategy?
There's another question that just came in. Have you tackled what to do with the vegetables? Could you clarify a little bit more? Do you mean the processing or? Oh, okay. Meaning low-income family and lack of knowledge of food cooking.
Totally. Yeah. So one of the things that our team was doing at that farmers market outreach program was they also had cookbooks on display and different printouts and resources so that when people were getting their SNAP information, they could not only talk to them about which vendors to, how to use them with vendors and things like that, but they could also offer resources on how to use the food that they're buying. Beyond that, I'm not sure I have any specific good examples that would address specifically what you're asking. But yeah, that's kind of the overall goal of the Harvest of the Month series too that we do, where we write articles, and Megan also works on that with her Farm to School program, is to put that information out there for everyone. We know that the percentage of people buying local food, or perhaps a better way to word that is the percentage of food being purchased in our area that is local, is very low, even amongst people who are obviously financially able to buy local all the time. And so I think our outreach with that is really a catch-all kind of trying to get everyone. Sweet. Any other questions on that?
That's all we have in the chat. So I think if you want to keep going, we can do the rest at the end.
When I started here.
Cool. So what does this model look like for you? I think, maybe perhaps summits like this or conferences, there's a lot of things on display that sound really interesting, but I feel like I usually walk away with a question of, well, what do I do? Like, how do I actually do this? So I hope that I can answer that for you and recognize that I also come from a place of privilege in that this is my full-time job. And I definitely want to share a little appreciation for anything that you're doing, and recognize that even the smallest efforts can be really helpful, and everyone starts somewhere. And these are all just suggestions, definitely suggestions based on my personal experience. And I didn't invent any of this. This is, things that Adirondack Harvest and other organizations have been doing for a really long time. So these are just some of my anecdotes. So the first step is to find out what the gaps are. Like I said, what's keeping you from achieving the goal of your business or your organization or your personal work. You probably already know what these barriers are, but if you don't already know what these barriers are, maybe you're working in a field that you're not super familiar with. There's lots of ways to figure out why you're not able to, why isn't everyone buying local food? Why isn't everyone who's using SNAP able to come to the farmers market? So some ways to do that is to do some good old-fashioned listening, talking to people who are maybe in the audience of the groups that you're trying to work with, including surveys in your outreach. yes, we're all overwhelmed with surveys, but they are really important. They provide valuable data and they can be anonymous, which is really important. Looking at social media, using Google. If you're a little bit more advanced in the marketing world, you can use some tools called Google Analytics, Google search trends. That's something I do a lot, is I look at specifically how people are Googling for questions surrounding agriculture, local food, tourism in the area, and try to create answers for them that will eventually draw them to our farms. And I think the biggest thing is to attempt what you're asking someone to do. I know that was integral for our team when they were trying to figure out how to do outreach and offer SNAP at the farmers market, especially at the winter farmers market in Saranac Lake, was going through and actually trying to do it ourselves and finding out the different places where someone could get caught up. So the next part is identifying opportunities. So you've recognized that you have a problem. And so now you have to kind of start thinking about, am I the person to fix it? And if I am, how am I going to do that? So some considerations are you the most credible, up-to-date source? What's your capacity? Do you have time to do this really well? This is a big one. Are we doing the same work twice? Has someone else already kind of maybe started to do this, but it petered off? Or is someone else doing this, but we want to do it a little differently? Is there someone else better suited that I can support instead of lead on this? And finally, what external voices, resources, and work would make this more effective? The main goal with content marketing is to provide something so helpful, so interesting, so relevant, that it really helps solve someone's problem. And maybe the way to do that isn't with something that you have access to. Maybe it's with something someone else has access to. Oops. Cool. So then maybe you've identified a problem and you've identified, okay, yeah, I'm definitely the people to do this. That was kind of my moment with the holiday guide. I was looking around, I thought, no one else can do this as good as Adirondack Harvest. We're going to do it. And so the first step is, what am I asking people to do? What would success look like? What is the intended result? Who is this for? Who's my target audience? And that will help inform what is the best format. Should it be an online thing? Should it be a PDF guide? Should it be something printed in the newspaper? Should it be something mailed to people's houses? Should it be a presentation at a local community center? What support do I need to make it happen? Maybe I could do this really successfully, but distribution, maybe I am really lacking. And so I can work with someone to help me there. And finally, is this really actually helpful for my goals, the people I'm going to be working with, and most importantly, your target audience? You above all else, you want to make sure the problems you're trying to solve are actually very helpful for the people that are experiencing these problems. And so then once you've created your resource or your program or your project, you're going to look to distribution. How are we going to make sure people know it exists? What's the best distribution method? Is it email? Is it calling people up individually on the phone? Where is my audience already? Is it a local Facebook group? Is it on Nextdoor? What tools do I already have that I can utilize? Am I already sending an email out next week and I can just include this? Where do I need support? Do I need help with press outreach from maybe one of my partners or colleagues? This is another important one. How will I follow up and keep this relevant? We don't want to just create things and put them out into the universe and have them be outdated in a month, which I think we're all a little guilty of sometimes. But that's another question of capacity. And who can we partner with? Who can we help work with to amplify our effort? So if that all felt really maybe overwhelming and maybe you're thinking, okay, that sounds like a lot. I have about 10 minutes to devote to this in reality. I've compiled a quick list of things that anyone can do starting at the easiest, less time consuming, all the way down to maybe the most time consuming. Things that everyone, no matter your role, if you're just a community member or if you're the president of the United States, I guess, everyone can do this. And some things that we can do is to share our partners' content. That's a good way to be a good partner, is to help the algorithm see the good work that our partners are doing. Liking their content, saving it, sharing it, commenting. You're looking at social media anyway, so I know you probably have some time to drop a comment every now and then. When we're writing things, either if it's an email or a press release or anything like that, we can include these relevant links. When I'm looking for an article or recipe on roasted butternut squash, it would be really easy for me to just Google butternut squash recipe and go with the first recipe that Google provides to me. But can I do a little extra digging and see if I can find a local farm who has a recipe on their website, or another local organization? Then I can help give them a little bit of credit and boost. Quote other people in your outreach. If you're writing a press release about SNAP usage, maybe there's another organization doing this work that you can quote, or someone who uses SNAP that you can quote. Ask to use other people's photos and videos in your outreach. That's definitely going to make your outreach more effective if you've only got, outdated photos that you don't really feel like are good quality. A good way to do that is to use your partner's photos. Write blog posts, articles, write a letter to the editor. Ask your publications that you work with to publish them. Invite partners to events to speak and to present, to table. And finally, I guess the general idea is just to pass the mic, to give other people credit, to invite other people to the table if you're invited, and just keep thinking about the other people doing the work that's similar to what you're doing or maybe different, and think about ways that we can support them. Cool. So I'm gonna look in the chat here. I would love to talk about some more general questions. Why is buying low if people can afford it? That's a good question. I definitely don't have all the answers to that, but I can tell you from my experience, it's convenience. You can go to a grocery store and get everything you need all at once, and stopping at a farm store or farmer's market, maybe you can't get everything you need all at once. Some people maybe, I guess convenience is probably the biggest one. Having to go to the farmer's market to get your stuff. It's only a couple hours on the weekend. Seasonality. I would love to hear maybe some food producers' thoughts on that in the chat. They might have a better answer than me. Cool. Any other questions, ideas, questions about specific tools we use? Give it a minute so people can think about it. Yes, we do work with videographers. We do publish some of our videos. If you go to our Facebook page or our YouTube page, you'll see some other videos that are a little bit more informal, and they're definitely equally as fun, that our team member Carly has done, and we worked with a local video editor to do, but that one that we showed was made by a professional producing company. How can more farmers and food producers get involved? Great question, Dan. Our membership is sliding scale, so it's contribute what you can. The suggestion is $25 a year for food producers. We would love to have any farmers or local food businesses or local product ag businesses join as members. If you can't join as a member, maybe you're just a community member or an organization, you can become a friend, which is basically a donation to support our work. I'll drop a link in the chat at the end for our email list. to sign up. That's the best way to know what we're doing all the time. And obviously follow us on social media too. Yeah. Transportation. I do not have any. Do you mean transportation for food or transportation for people? We definitely have a new search feature that we implemented during the pandemic about curbside pickup and home delivery, because that was, that contactless thing was kind of becoming an issue. That's a good question. Yeah, so that's actually one of the reasons why we wanted to be at the Saranac Lake Market, is because it is in a walkable area, and there's a little bit more opportunity for people who don't have regular access to transportation to be there. But yeah, no, I agree. That is definitely a barrier for people using their SNAP benefits. And that's why we're very thankful for our friends at 80K Action, the Hub on the Hill, doing home delivery and things like that. Cool. Well, then I will show you my slide basically touching on what Dan asked, which is how you can stay involved in Adirondack Harvest things. Yeah. I see one more question from Jeff. Yeah, great point, Jeff. People love the agro-tourism engagement part of it. I agree. Yeah. That's definitely something that is important. People, and I will say some people really like the one-on-one, get to know your farmer, have a conversation about soil health and things like that. And some people really don't like talking to other people, and they like the self-serve thing. So it's good to have an offering for everyone in that regard.
Thank you, Mary. This has been such a great presentation. Does anybody have any more questions before we wrap it up?
Cool. I just have one more last Robin Wall Kimmerer quote from the same essay, to remind us about mutual flourishing. To replenish the possibility of mutual flourishing for the birds and the berries and the people, we need an economy that shares the gifts of the earth, following the lead of our oldest teachers, the plants. And this essay is about how the serviceberry, which is a native wild plant, is beneficial for pollinators and for animals, and humans can eat the berries, and how the serviceberry can grow its population and thrive better when its berries are taken from it and eaten. So I hope that all takes you on to your next presentation with a little bit of thinking about how can we all flourish together and how can we use marketing to do it. Thank you all. I will see you in the next Zoom.